the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the show. I'm pretty pumped up today, man. It's my kind of day, Jim. Temperature around 90, humidity around 90. That's the perfect combination for me. But, of course, I'm in the air conditioning, easy to say. Hey, we've got a kind of a unique show lined up for you today, which I think will resonate with an awful lot of folks. And just about everybody, I think, will find something that's meaningful. We're going to take a look at no-fault divorce and how it's harmed marriage. And normally, we focus on how to fix marriages and how to fix your relationship and how to improve your communication and heal wounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes one spouse says, I'm not doing it, and they walk away and they abandon the spouse who's behind trying to save the marriage. So that's what we're going to take a look at, right? So, I mean, have you or somebody you know been unjustly abandoned by their spouse? I mean, I certainly know some folks pretty closely, actually, where that's been the case. For the spouse who's been abandoned, I mean, is there any place within the church to turn for help? So if you're that victim of a spouse who just decided to punch that card, that no-fault divorce card, and left you alone, where can you turn for help? Today, I've got a wonderful guest with me, Bay McFarland, who's the founder of Mary's Advocates, a nonprofit organization working to reduce unilateral no-fault divorce and support those who have been unjustly abandoned. Bay, welcome to Marriage Unhindered.
Hello, Doug. Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure. Tell me about Mary's Advocate. What is the work that you all do? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, two purposes, trying to reduce unilateral no-fault divorce and also support those who are unjustly abandoned. And the people who contact me are Catholics who took their marriage promises very seriously, or they convalidated their marriage some number of years after participating in some other kind of ceremony. So they have a Catholic marriage and they wanted a Catholic marriage. And then, like you described in your intro, the other spouse kind of gives up. So what does one do? And when you go through the no-fault divorce process as a defendant, I mean, the state is empowered to force a breakup.
Yeah.
So there's no option to try to stop a divorce. There's no option to try to keep your own home if the two of you can't support the home financially with one person living in a separate space. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, if you come across as the person who believes, hey, my spouse promised good times and bad, sickness and health. Mm-hmm. There's other people who've experienced the same issues that we've experienced, and all we need is the right kind of help and direction. And I'm willing. Well, if you say that kind of thing, the state kind of labels you as a control freak who just doesn't get along with it. It's kind of like if you were a widow. If I was a widow and I'm telling, I don't know, some court entity about my husband's assets or whatever. If I was a widow who kept claiming my husband was alive, the mindset the court would have about me is like the mindset they have about a separated faithful person who still believes they're married.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So no-fault divorce came in, during the Reagan administration? So let's go on.
Yeah, he started it in California in the very late 60s, and there was this Uniform Marriage and Divorce Law Commission, and their purpose is to come up with uniform laws so that all the states can have the same law, and they had a plan about divorce. And it was sold to the public, or at least sold to the lawyers and judges. Hey, this is a way so we prevent people from having to lie. Like if husband and wife are both just like sick of each other and both want a divorce, the only way they could get a divorce was to prove fault. Mm-hmm. So basically someone's lying.
Yeah.
So it was presented as this way to help the couples where both parties wanted the divorce.
Sure.
But in reality, what it is it enables abandonment, aided and abetted with the power of the police state, the force.
Yeah. So to me, it's just counterintuitive on so many levels. I mean, any other contract, if you and I have a contract, I'm going to buy your car. Well, I can't just change my mind after we've signed the documents. The court will force me to live up to what I promised to do.
Or at least repair damage as much as possible.
Yeah, but not with marriage.
Correct. So even if you're married in a Catholic ceremony and you said and promised certain things and, you go through your premarital investigation with the priest and you're of sound mind and you have witnesses, all of that, the state doesn't care. So that's the experience from the state. But then, kind of like to add insult to injury, a lot of Catholics will tell the divorce defendant, oh, you're still young. You've got a lot going for you. Why do you want to stay married to someone that doesn't want to be married to you anyway?
Sure.
You need to move on, find your new partner. He was probably no good for, it's like all this negativity, where, Catholics don't do that for someone who's contemplating suicide. You don't encourage and say, oh yeah, your life's, it's not worth living.
Yeah.
Or someone who thinks, say a woman has an unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah.
Half normal Catholics know we don't encourage abortion.
Right.
We encourage getting the right kind of help.
Yeah, fix the problem.
There's a lot of Catholics out there who will tell the divorce defendant also, you need to move on and recognize that it's over.
Yeah, well, we've kind of, I think as a culture, but Catholics, we've kind of drank the Kool-Aid that marriage should be this almost unconditional utopia, this almost perfect happiness, because I have a right to be happy. And if I'm not happy with you, then I should have the right to get rid of you and find someone else who can make me happier, because happiness is the ultimate way by which I measure, success of the marriage.
Yeah, I got into this. I met my husband when we were in college. We got married when we were in our late 20s. Mm-hmm. And when we had 4 children, for reasons that to this day, I honestly don't really understand. And I don't get too much into my personal situation because I'm still hoping for reconciliation in my own marriage.
There you go.
But I started to learn what is no-fault divorce. People assume when you go to courts that you're going to get justice. And boy, was that an eye-opening experience to learn about that. But then I also started learning, what does the church teach about separation? Mm-hmm. And the church has a lot to say about it. And I had never heard of it before until I got into this situation.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let me ask you first. The no-fault divorce thing, I came across a statistic, and tell me how this squares with your experience, but that roughly almost 75% of the divorces in the United States are initiated by only one spouse, which would suggest that 3/4 of divorces are no fault, where one person has just decided to opt out. Does that square with you?
In a lot of states, I do know this because I've done research about the state law. Because when someone contacts me and they're a divorce defendant, like the first thing we need to do is, well, let's see what your state law says. Because some states have an option for a defendant to ask the court to order counseling. I'm in Ohio, and we have that option. And a divorce defendant can even name the counselor they want to use. So,
that's nice.
You're right. So we need to know if that law exists in the state. And some states, if a plaintiff wants a divorce, the mere fact of them basically saying, I want a divorce, there's different language like incompatibility or irreconcilable differences or irretrievable breakdown, all those things. But in a lot of states, if a party claims that, then the court has to force a divorce on the other spouse and children. But some states have waiting periods, like, you have to wait 6 months before the court will force it, or you have to wait a year, or some states say, well, you have to be separated. Like in Ohio, if a plaintiff alleges incompatibility, if the defendant denies it, then the state does not have the power to force a divorce on the family. There has to be a separation for a year first, which could help in some cases. But if someone's an abandoner and he moves out of the house, once he's abandoned for a year, he's just earned his no-fault divorce anyway.
Yeah.
So, and if no fault is an option, the plaintiff's lawyer, this is just my opinion based on talking to folks who've been living through it. It's a lot easier for a plaintiff's lawyer to argue in front of a court a case of no-fault divorce because you don't have to prove anything.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
You don't have to prove adultery or abandonment or neglect or extreme cruelty. So why would a lawyer want to have a case when all he gets to do instead is pass papers back and forth? And it's horribly expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Horribly expensive.
Yeah.
Like they have pretrial events. And at a pretrial event, husband goes, wife goes, husband's lawyer, wife's lawyer. If they have children, the court could appoint a guardian ad litem or amicus of the court who worked for the children, so it's like 3 lawyers
Yeah.
$6, $8, $1,000 an hour. It's crazy.
Yeah, the one case that I'm really very familiar with, it ended up being cantankerous. I think both husband and wife ended up spending close to $50,000 in legal fees and really accomplished nothing. They still ended up with 50 custody. And, it was but it was so gut-wrenchingly painful, especially for the victim in this thing.
The victim is truly faced with a coercion.
Yeah.
You sign a settlement where you lose everyday access to your kids on some schedule, and you lose the support that you would have had with both parties working to maintain a home. So you sign an agreement that you actually hate and don't agree to and think is unjust and you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
That's one option.
Yeah.
Or you keep going back and forth with lawyers for months at the tune of $100,000 for a family.
It's just crazy, right? Which just rips all that money out of the family welfare and the tuition, college tuitions for the kids. And the kids are the real victim in this whole thing, right? So the kids I don't see how no-fault divorce benefits a child in any way, shape, or form.
If it was a fault-based divorce in previous decades, say a husband's having an affair, and say the wife finds out about it. Adultery is a grounds for permanent separation of spouses for Catholics. So say the wife's a stay-at-home mom, but she has a reason for permanent separation of spouses. In the old days, she could go to the civil court, and the civil court would recognize adultery as a fault of the husband. And the civil court could recognize, hey, he's been the breadwinner and you're a stay-at-home mom and you have minor children. So the court could order him and use state powers to get him to support the wife and minor children, or even the wife and children, or the wife forever. I'm thinking of a friend I have in California. So that was the old days. Oh, and the children would never be forced to spend overnight visits with their dad and his new paramour, his consort.
Oh, yeah.
That was the old days.
Yeah.
But now, here's a mom, if her husband's committing adultery with no fault and the husband asks for divorce, there's nothing she can do to stop her children from spending overnight visits. So that's no good.
Yeah, I can go on and on about the effect of children.
Yeah. So
and
that's the bad news.
Yeah. And you know what? And I run into a lot with the pre-marriage work that I do. And I hear from a lot of these young folks that say, Doug, you got to help us because we don't want to do to our kids what our parents did to us. And we want this marriage to work and be happy because we lived through the divorce and the anger and the cussing and the swearing and the throwing of frying pans and all. And we don't want to do that to our kids.
Yeah.
Bae McFarlane, who's talking about no-fault divorce and the church and her wonderful organization, Mary's Advocate, which is there to support those people who are the victims of no-fault divorce and what we can do for them. Like what you just heard? Share it with your family and friends.